welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. I'm Rochelle Batiste with the details. Young people in the country are being encouraged to start saving now and take an interest in their pension plan. The advice came from independent consultant actuary Judith Varia, who was addressing a panel discussion held here recently by the NIS on pension reform.
We really see a lot of young faces, and this is going to impact them, what we are doing today. And I've been in this business a long time, whether it is on the Social Security side. What's that? Sorry. With the exception, one or two, and with employer-provided pension plans. And time again, you try to drum through to the 30-year-olds, the 35-year-olds, etc. Start saving now. It will accumulate, it will pay off in the long run. You will retire, right? You will retire. There's going to come a time where you do not have that salary coming in, so it matters. Take an interest in your pension plan, whether it be from your employer or whether it be from the NIS. So hopefully some of the youth leaders out there, maybe they're listening and they're not here, and they will take all of this to heart.
NIS current situation, Vera said it is important to have a funding policy with a set of rules or documented guidelines for those in charge of governance to ensure they maintain the financial sustainability of the institution with strong, robust framework done in an orderly and structured manner to achieve certain objectives.
So we want to have this written. Everybody, the board, chaired by Mr. Bowman, they follow this so we can keep in charge of what we are doing here, right? Now, in essence, what that means is this policy, this funding policy, will aim to ensure that we maintain the appropriate balance between our income stream and our expenditure stream over the long term, not just for tomorrow, okay? And also, too, it will speak to the funding policy, needs to speak to how are we going to finance the costs of the NIS. That's very important. The costs are pretty much given. They're enshrined in the NIS Act as it is right now. How are we going to finance those costs? The funding policy will also tell us what is the trigger, what event has to happen that says to the board, to the people who are in charge of governance, listen up, it's time for us to make some reform measures. We need to look at this now and not wait until we're at the end of the cliff and we start to fall over the cliff.
Vera said there is also the need for a suitable financing system as part of the funding policy, which is suitable for the nature of the long-term benefits that are to be financed.
Okay, so short-term benefits, you could fund for it using a pay-as-you-go system. Money in, money out, no problem. You maybe have about 1 year's worth of reserve. But this is long-term benefits. We need a larger reserve. We want to make sure in the funding policy we speak to minimum target reserve levels are maintained. We always want to make sure we have a sufficient buffer. Why? Unforeseen circumstances. We've all experienced COVID, anything like that could happen. We want to be able to have, in those odd times when our expenditure is greater than income, we have that buffer that we can rely on, we can dig into it. Having the reserves also affords us the stability of the contribution rates over the medium to long term. So that is all very important. In terms of, again, objectives of the funding policy, we want to ensure that once a contribution rate or contribution rates, because that is also possible, you know, you can, a particular NIS board may not necessarily say, okay, we're going to go from 10% to 15%. It may be done in a phase stage, 10, 11, 12, etc., but eventually leveling off, right? So once that contribution rate or set of rates are announced, we want that rate to remain stable for an extended period of time. We want stability in the system. At the end of the day, the board doesn't want to have to go back to everybody, to the stakeholders every Monday morning and say, oh gosh, things really bad. We have to increase the contribution rate. We have to change the benefit accrual rate. They want to make these reform measures. Once it is done, it can hold the sound financial condition of the fund for the medium to long term.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines Ambassador at Large Vaughn Tooney passed away on Monday, September 4, 2023 in New York. For almost 30 years, Tooney provided public service with childcare advocacy, early childhood education and community action. He was the CEO of the Friends of Crown Heights Educational Centers, Inc., one of New York City's largest not-for-profit providers of subsidized childcare and elderly childhood education. Tooney also served on the Daycare Council of New York's board and was a member of the Child Care Inc.'s board of directors. He has garnered many honors for his public service and dedication to high-quality childcare, early childhood education and community empowerment, and was appointed by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as Ambassador at Large in September 2022. At a recently held news conference, Prime Minister Dr. Raul Gonzalez said while in the USA, he went to visit Tooney, who was ailing at the time. The Prime Minister spoke highly of Tooney's work in bringing Vincentians in the diaspora together in the interest of national development. In other local news now, we hear that the Stubs government school is in urgent need of repairs and sterilization. This is according to President of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, and Industrial Relations Officer Andrew John, who noted that after using the school as an evacuation center, no repairs or proper sanitization seem to have been done on the facility.
The whole face of the building, of the plant, you know, in relation to painting, we have not seen that being done in so many of our schools.
I know we have a problem at Stubs. Last school year, the member of parliament for that era said that they're going to do work on the building. I believe it probably is a dream he had. He had a vision that cannot be implemented.
Well, actually, I saw some sand being dumped inside there at the beginning, you know, at beginning last week, somewhere thereabouts. But when they say work, you have to question what are they talking about? Because the railings on that building need painting. You know, they're rusty. You hold on to them in whole hand.
That was one of the evacuation centers when we had lots of eruption, right? And since that time, that building has not been properly power washed, sanitized. So that is really an assault on the nation's children, the children of Stubs and the surrounding areas and the teachers.
According to the SVG-TV president, the Minister of Education should play a greater role in ensuring that schools are safe for the students and teachers.
Responsibility. Whoever he designates that responsibility to, that also must be taken into consideration. So we want schools to be safe, we want schools to be healthy.
Of course.
So that also, you see, a lot of time the government talk about quality leadership, quality teachers, but they don't talk about the quality of the classrooms, the physical infrastructure.
And you know, a lot of pressure is being placed on the principals to get a lot of these things up and running. You know, a lot of them have to find resources to get that in the school, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of principals are tired. Right now, a lot of principals are getting sick because of the stress and the strain that is being placed on them to do work that should have been the responsibility of the Ministry of Education. So, for example, your school is going to open as a principal, you haven't had any resources, you haven't had any help from the authorities, but you have to have that ready. So you have to be out in your community looking for persons to assist, looking for parents, looking for, you know, villagers to help you, and that is something that you have to take responsibility for, because the minister and those persons responsible have not been living up to their responsibilities in the way our schools are being maintained.
And over 100 students in the North Leeward constituency were the recipients of school supplies just in time for the start of the 2023-2024 academic year, which started yesterday, Monday, September 4th, 2023. Over the past weekend, Member of Parliament for the constituency, Carlos James, coordinated the distribution of school bags and essential supplies to the children within the constituency. According to a news release, each student received school bags containing exercise books and stationery. The news release says a team collaborating with the constituency representative expressed the importance of the effort, noting that the support was targeted to vulnerable families who had a difficulty sending their children back to school. The release quoted Minister James as saying, "We are supporting families with the necessary tools by ensuring that no child is left behind. This program will ensure they all have an equal opportunity towards a productive learning experience." Endemic species play a very important role in the environment and are also good for the country's tourism sector. This is according to Forestry Supervisor with responsibility for endemic species Glenroy Games, who was a guest on NBC Radio Face-to-Face program yesterday.
In 2018. So it's almost every day you find something new, and so on. And the Coast Guard has assisted, Commandant Henry and Hamlet and so on, and the guys in Myra and so on, a team, Owen Isaacs and another team from Beckwith and Canawan. They really came out with us and went to the forest with us, not only on the sea, to do some population survey and taking some DNA samples so that we could show the rest of the world what we have to showcase. I mean, St. Vincent right now is dependent on tourism. And when the tourist comes, you need to have attraction. No longer people wants to do sea and sun, but when you have endemic species, people come just to see those species. Yeah. So we have to be thankful.
Games use the opportunity to caution persons not to kill the endemic snakes, noting that because of the heat, a lot of snakes are becoming more popular around different areas and persons should not harm them as they are not venomous or harmful.
The law could deal with you. You could be charged for doing that, especially knowing that it's an endemic species. It's unique. We're the only persons in the world that has it. So just like the St. Vincent part, we need to treat these things with the same respect. I mean, I know it goes way back maybe into the Bible where people see this thing about snakes and stuff like this. So there's an phobia, right? And so on. But just call us and we would have the snake removed safely. Some time ago, we went to the PM's residence and so on and removed one a couple of weeks ago. And we do it all the time. People call us from the Grenadines all the way up to St. Vincent to remove. It's the Forestry Department, 4578594.
The forestry supervisor highlighted some of the different species of snakes which can be found across the country.
In St. Vincent, as in mainland St. Vincent, we have 3 species of snakes. We have the garden snake, which is brown in color, right? That is original endemic. It's found in 3 other islands apart from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The other 2 are pure endemics. So the Congo snake is from St. Vincent only, not even in the Grenadines. And the St. Vincent black snake, which is one of the rarest snakes globally. And we have a project coming up soon with that also, where in the past 15 or so years, we have only seen maybe 13 or 14. So that's critically endangered as far as we're concerned. And we're currently working on doing some work on that one. In the Grenadines, we have a different set of species. The same white snake that normally in the garden, you'll find it in the Grenadines also. However, there's a Congo snake in the Grenadines that is not even found on St. Vincent, but it's found from Beckwith all the way down to PSV and in Grenada.
And Director of Forestry Services Fitzgerald Providence has expressed concern with the African giant snail getting into the forest and is appealing to persons going into the forest to ensure that their footwears are clean so no eggs from the giant snails will get in the forest. Providence was speaking on the issue on NBC Radio Face-to-Face program yesterday.
So even if we're going into a season where people are going into the forest, maybe doing tours and so on, make sure your boots are clean before you enter the forest. Because what you can do, you can take a pathogen from one area into another area. So never go into coming back from the forest or wherever you go, if you're trampled in dirt, make sure you clean your shoes off properly and sterilize that water with salt or so on, so that you wouldn't be dispersing the eggs of the animal.
Providence said since the last update, there have been no other sightings of the African snails outside of the concentrated areas in Camden Park and Kittels, where over 15,000 snails were found and destroyed. The forestry director is also advising the public to research more about the African giant snails to ensure that they are not destroying local snails.
We from the Ministry of Agriculture, I think we're supposed to have a meeting to look at it, but I think we haven't seen sightings beyond the areas that
were mentioned before, Camden Park, Edinburgh.
And with that, I asked persons to again gain knowledge of it, because persons have approached me in terms of this. We have snails in St. Vincent. Well, I'm not a mollusk specialist, so I would not be able to say how many we have, but there's some unique ones. There's a little green one, and persons. I remember someone sent me a photo of one, and like, is this the African snail? But just research and know the size of the snake and snail, and how it looks, so that you'll be able to not target local snails. From the forestry point of view, we are a bit concerned of it getting into the forest, and we work at in terms of that and the practices that persons can use to prevent it moving. As the Ministry of Agriculture has pointed out, don't crush them, don't do anything that will allow the eggs to disperse.
In other local news now, Superintendent of Police Trevor Bailey says that it is important to implement community service strategies to foster better relationship between members of the RSVG police force and the public. Superintendent Bailey, along with Superintendent Hezron Ballantyne, who is in charge of the Eastern Division, and Assistant Superintendent Nigel Butcher of the Northwestern Division, were on the Police on the Beat program yesterday, speaking on the topic, the importance of community policing and creating safer communities.
It's not only when you're investigating or you're looking for some information to solve a crime that you have to engage your people. You have to be constantly in contact, so that the partnership exists, not only for when it suits the police, but every day. There is this relationship, there is this communication network, there is this accessibility between the police and the public. So therefore, I say we offer a service, and we must always be accessible and true to the cause.
Superintendent Ballantyne said along with better interaction, officers ought to have an open book policy towards members of the public.
And in the Eastern Division, I definitely see that with camaraderie. I have seen persons coming to me, reaching out so that we can put things in place, and I can call. I have a justice of peace who came. He's out of state now, with some very good initiative, and I'm really anxiously waiting for him to return so that we can discuss. Not only because of he's from Georgetown, but he also want to engage person from different areas, because remember, we have 4 different stations, police stations, in my district. So we want to engage person from like Oya, Georgetown, Connery, right, and so on, so that we can make life easier for our citizens in that division.
Assistant Superintendent Butcher noted that several community service strategies launched in the Northwestern Division have been fruitful thus far.
The school visits going. I have my officers going to the schools, delivering lectures, speaking to students, and most of all, what is critical, what I think is more, parents, these children come from all different backgrounds.
Definitely.
Okay? When they go to school and they interact and they interface with other children. So it is important to reach out to the parents. So it is very important for us to go to the parent meetings, meet with the children, and we all have to admit it. Realistically, some of these parents need that kind of guidance and support.